In this tutorial, we will share some tips on creating a presentation, including crafting your message, organizing information, and delivering your talk.
A typical oral presentation is given to a captive audience for a limited amount of time and may be in a formal setting with you in control of how the information is delivered. Your audience expects a talk followed by an opportunity in which to ask questions. As a presenter, it's important to keep your presentation focused, providing only a number of points appropriate for the time allotted. The first step in developing a presentation is to consider the message you want to deliver. Effective communication requires construction of an effective message, and there are three components. First, what is the purpose or point of the information you are sharing? Are you sharing results of an experiment? Is this a call to action? Is this an overview of a case study? Second, it's important to establish your credibility as the presenter. What is your expertise, and why should someone listen to you? Third, who is your audience, and what are their needs? Identifying the level of knowledge of your audience and the information they need to know about your topic helps structure the content you will share, as well as the order with which you will share it. Knowing your audience also informs how you present the information, the formality of the presentation, and even if software programs such as PowerPoint are necessary. So if we take an outreach activity to third graders, it may be more important to structure short explanations with hands-on activities rather than giving them a slide deck and a more formal presentation. The last component to consider is discipline. Consideration must be given to the discipline with which you are presenting. The discipline informs the type of presentation, how it's organized and structured, language that's utilized, and even the manner with which the information is shared. So, for example, a research presentation in the sciences will be organized with an introduction, methods, results, discussion, etc. What does that look like for your field? Determining the presentation practices of the discipline is another key component of effective messaging. After considering the components of your message, next you begin to develop the content, and one method is to use an outline. An outline serves two purposes. First, it helps develop the overall main point or gist of your talk and aids in the logical organization of information. Second, an outline identifies the main idea or point for each individual slide. These are the pieces of the story that a listener needs to understand the overall issue. Think of it like topic sentences when writing. The topic sentence anchors the idea and keeps the content focused. For each slide, state the main point, provide an explanation for that point, and then create a bridge or a transition to the next point, like the next slide. Once you have constructed an outline, turn your attention to the balance of content. Balancing sections is important to provide adequate time for each part. You do not want to spend all the time on background and then race through the remaining portions of your presentation. It'll just feel rushed. Consider how much time you have, allot for questions, and then divide the time among your sections. So in this case, for a scientific presentation, you may have about 15 minutes to present your talk. So consider all the sections that you're going to need to cover. What are the most important ideas to share? So in the sciences, it's usually the results and conclusion. So we're going to allot more time for these sections. Another way to balance a talk is to limit the number of slides to the minutes you have to talk. So if you have 10 minutes to speak, which means you should start with 10 slides to cover the material, about a minute per slide. Some slides may go faster than others, but this is a good trick to initially set up your presentation and achieve balance. Be aware of language and information overload. Is there a simpler way to say the same idea? Avoiding overly complex statements broadens the audience and allows more to understand what is being shared. So reflect on what your audience needs to understand your main points. Likewise, too many details bury the main idea. Keep the information focused to what is needed. The details and additional ideas can emerge in the discussion. Once you have content gathered, it's time to consider the design of your presentation. And a presentation can take different forms. If you are using slides, consider formatting the slide design at the start so there's uniformity with your presentation. Slide Master in PowerPoint is one method for setting up your design quickly, and it can be accessed under the View tab in the Slide Master view. Here you can establish the background, the font style, and font size. Whatever you do use for your presentation, you want to consider the format and making it uniform so that the presentation feels cohesive.
Now, we've all seen slides like this, where others try to include all of the information they have ever found possible regarding their topic on one slide. It's just one wall of text. Information dump is not effective for conveying your message and important ideas in a presentation. Rather than listening, your audience tends to start reading the slides, much like you probably are now. Allow yourself to dump all of that content, and when you realize you're doing it, stop. Reread what you've written, highlight what that main point is, and use that as your bullet, going back to that outline, and then start building what you really want to say here. Animation can sometimes be effective for keeping your audience on track and following you through a story. If you elect to use animation, use it appropriately to focus that audience's attention on the points you're addressing in that moment. Bring in one point, discuss it, and then move to the next. Transparency allows the first point to remain visible while you share the next. This can be effective to aid in illustrating connections. Do not distract the audience with silly animation options. They read as unprofessional and take away from your points. Remember, use animation to focus attention, not to be flashy or showy. Font style matters in presentations. All caps is not only difficult to read, but it comes across like you're screaming at someone. Some font styles are less professional than others. Again, think of your audience. Sans serif fonts, like Arial or Calibri, are clean and easy to read, as opposed to fonts with serif, such as Times New Roman. Bold is good when you're using it for emphasis, but don't use bold too much. Again, it can be difficult to read. And save italics for special characters or scientific names. Like the fine print on contracts, small font sizes are difficult to read in presentations. Select font sizes that are large. You also want to consider keeping the balance of all of the other elements on your slide. So it's not just the font size of, say, the bullets, but also the font size of the title on your slide. Make sure that those are proportionate to each other, so the slide is clean and easily read. PowerPoint and other presentation softwares have many different templates to select from. Do so carefully, because template design elements, such as these feathers I'm showing here, restrict where you can place your text. If you elect to include a template, place text so it is not covering those elements. Another option is to create your own design elements in Slide Master, so it complements the information you're going to share and maximizes the space with which you have to do so. There's actually a science behind selecting colors for presentations. Color scheme requires consideration of your audience and an understanding of the color wheel. Complementary colors like purple and yellow balance each other. There is also a story behind colors for different disciplines. So in ecology, when I see red, I'm thinking of something that's hot or fire. Likewise, if I see green, I'm thinking of vegetation. Know what those colors mean for the audience and select no more than 3 that complement the graphics you share. The bit.ly link explains color theory and options for combinations and give you additional suggestions when selecting a color scheme for your presentation. Images are also an important part of a presentation. Select images that are high quality to avoid pixelation. This is particularly an issue if you save a thumbnail and then stretch it to fit the space. Also, adding a border around your images really makes them pop from the background. Likewise, select meaningful images that are information-rich. So clip art really doesn't give you a good idea about the low-intensity fire or an ecosystem as described in this caption. An image of the ecosystem, however, provides opportunity to convey more detail. Now we could discuss location, movement of fire, vegetation, management, on and on and on. And when possible, use full bleed images, ones that take up the entire slide. Now, the audience is listening to you and the words you're saying and pairing them with the visuals in the image. With any images used, it's important to provide citation and give credit to all sources appropriately. Select images with the Creative Commons license via Wikimedia Commons or using an advanced search in Flickr. The bit.ly link included on the slide shares additional consideration when locating and citing visuals. Once you have your slides together, proofread, proofread, proofread. Look for grammatical errors and consistency, both in text style, size, and even layout. As the creators of the slides, we tend to have a blind eye to some of these errors and these mistakes. Ask a friend to review your slides to ensure those mistakes do not appear in your final presentation. Moving on to delivery, it's really about your personal work style. Perhaps you like to use a note section within PowerPoint, or you want to physically have note cards. Whatever method you select, it should not be distracting or take away from you, the presentation. Practice helps you become more comfortable with the information and the order with which you share it. You will soon discover as you practice, you tend to look at those note cards in that note section less and less. Deliver your talk standing up and away from your slides often. This way the information will flow naturally from you and you'll discover transitions that help you move from one point to the next. We've spent quite a bit of time on presentation content and design, but the truth is, you are the presentation. Making eye contact with your audience indicates you're engaged and eager to share your ideas. Select a few friendly faces and look at them as you speak. Move around the room with your eyes so that you ensure that everyone is engaged and connected to you. Face your audience so they can clearly hear you, and project your voice so those in the back of the room can also hear what you're saying. Now, this is not yelling, but rather pushing the air from your diaphragm up and out. It's amplifying your words and your voice. Practice words and phrases that are tricky, and on the day of the presentation, pronounce them with confidence. Use emphasis, purposeful pauses, tone and tempo to drive enthusiasm. This helps indicate interest or questions that you may still want to uncover. Lastly, be aware of your delivery. Do you fidget, say a lot, or so? These are things that will distract the audience from your main points. Practicing the delivery helps minimize these mannerisms. Reserving the presentation practice room in Studio 151 is also useful for practicing and minimizing those mannerisms. Communication across the curriculum Studio 151 is located in Coats 151, and we can assist you with any communication-based project, including your presentation. Once you finish the talk, you want to see hands in the air. Questions mean you've engaged your audience, so be prepared to answer them. Be welcoming of questions asked and listen closely to be sure you understand what is being said. For example, thank your audience member for asking their question and then repeat it in your own words. This will allow for any needed clarification. If you don't know an answer, it's okay. Just be honest. Share what information you do know and offer to get back with that person with an answer if it's within your area of work. Finally, come prepared. Have the correct connectors if you're using your own laptop, and save your file in multiple formats, including PDF. You never know what software is going to be on the device with which you're presenting. If you use animations, a PDF will not show them. Instead, it will stack all of those animations on top of each other in one slide. So, what you'll need to do is count the number of animations or transitions you have per slide, and then copy that slide to match the number of animations. Then break down the animations, one movement per slide. Yes, you're going to go over the number of slides you have for the time you have to talk, but you'll be able to click through those quickly, particularly if you're using a PDF. And if the technology fails and your slides won't appear, panic for just a short amount of time. But then be prepared to present your work without slides. Remember, you are the presentation. For more tips to learn the location of studios and to get support, visit us at cxc.lsu.edu.